I've been working in public history for a long time, and I know that it's our responsibility to kind of unravel the myths of history and time, right? And in America, at least United States, that there's a tendency to kind of build up myths about the past, and they're very hard to unravel for people. Myths about all kinds of things, chopping down a cherry tree, you know what I mean? The pile of beads that bought Manhattan Island, right? So these are myths that are really pervasive, right? And so I guess my question is, does it matter? Why do we have to teach the truth when we have all these myths already set up? So what is the goal?
Well, I make films, kind of dispel these myths. That's why I made this film. So I was a teacher for over 20 years at our local high school and taught Native studies, Native film. I taught language and different things to our young people, and it was very hard to find resources about us. And then when I did find resources about us, it was hard to find things that were accurate, and even harder to find anything that was made by us. So I think it's very important that we're out there making films about ourselves, writing books about ourselves, and so that you're getting more of a first-hand account. And then even farther beyond that, to be thinking, when I'm dead and gone, my great-great-granddaughters and anybody that's Haudenosaunee can look at these films and really see what it was like for us. Not somebody coming in and extracting a story, but somebody that's living that story. So that's why I think it's important to do those kind of things.
So I remember being in the 7th grade. I went to a public school, and all the way up until then, I hadn't seen anything about our people in the books, hadn't learned anything. And I remember being in a history class, and I remember seeing, you know, in this big, thick textbook about this big, that all of a sudden I saw some Native people on the pages, and I got real excited, and I was like, oh, yay, great, this is where we get to maybe read about ourselves. And out of that big textbook, there was only 2 pages in there. And they were black and white photos of Plains natives, probably the Dakotas, right, and teepees, and that was it. And move on, let's go learn about US history now. It doesn't make any sense. And that's what majority of Americans are taught day after day. I went to law school, and the very, very first case that every single law student in this country reads in real property class is the Johnson v. McIntosh case, which cites the doctrine of discovery as the basis for all land title of the United States government in all of its territories. And for those of you who may have been paying attention this year with the Pope and his apology to Indigenous peoples regarding residential schools, there was quite a fuss being made for a very long time from our people, but it made it into the media about these papal bulls that contain and make up the doctrine of discovery. Most people in this country don't even know what the doctrine of discovery is, and that how it impacts your lives every single day. And if you go all the way back to 1493, you see how the church invisibilized and wanted to eliminate Indigenous peoples from this country. From, actually not just this country, excuse me, all of the Americas, and claim the land and the crowns of Europe, and to bring all the resources back to Europe, or utilize all the resources, and then do whatever they wanted with the people, us, because we didn't have souls, we weren't Christians. And so therefore that gave a right to genocide, enslavement, eventually residential schools, forced systems of assimilation, reservations, taking away land, stroke of a pen, eliminating Indigenous nations by the hundreds, eliminating identity of our people for hundreds of years. And it still goes on. Now, if you understand that that doctrine of discovery is live, active, valid, breathing law in this country, and how it impacts and shapes the psyche of the country, you can understand why it's important to tell the accurate history. Because then every single American would know what the doctrine of discovery is and what its impacts are today, and how it shapes the American perspective of Indigenous peoples. And it invisibilizes us and gives some type of authority. I like to quote Mama Bear on this all the time. She talks about an illegitimate assumption of a superiority. And so when you think about that being the basis of law and land title in this country and how it conducts itself, that shapes the policies which shape education, and education shapes how the country treats each other, how the people of this country treat each other. So knowing that that's at play, how do you think that our people are treated over time and to this day? Largely invisibilized. I don't know if you all remember, I think it was last year in the news, that under the statistics of the election, actually no, it was 2 years ago, maybe 3, I don't know. Time moves really fast, strangely these days. But you saw that the breakdown of the election, they showed, by race. And there was white, there was black, there was Asian, and then maybe Hispanic, and then they had other at the bottom. Well, I guess we're other, maybe, I don't know. We don't vote, that's another discussion for another time. But anyway, and that's just understanding that we have our own government system. And that also should be acknowledged, right? Why do the Haudenosaunee have our own government system? Why would the Haudenosaunee choose not to vote? Proudly. That probably blows most Americans' minds when you think about it. Why would you not vote? Well, because we're not U.S. citizens. We're citizens of our own nations, right? So when you begin to understand that nation-to-nation relationship that we have consistently held, it's a very different perspective, right? So I can keep going on, but I'll stop.
I think about this in a very personal way, that we are on the edge of the end of life on the planet. When the bees go, we go. And it's not certain that life will continue on this planet. We live with that uncertainty. My tradition, the Western tradition of control of the environment, of Mother Earth being a commodity that we can do anything with we wish, and all of Mother Earth's citizens also, anything we can do, we want to, is okay. The tradition that I come from is a tradition that is a train racing to the end of the concrete wall. But the women and Michael that I'm sitting with have a tradition that ensures survival. And so to answer your question, why is it important? For me, the survival of life on the planet requires that we learn from and understand what a nation, what a governmental, religious or spiritual, political, social system based on community, based on relationship, based on a sacredness for the essential of survival. know, women are the creators of life. Mother Earth creates everything that we need to sustain life. The doctrine of discovery, that series of papal bulls that said that if land was not occupied by Christians, it was not occupied, and if people were not Christians, they could be enslaved. Those papal bulls were issued at the same time that papal bulls calling for the extermination of the witches were wise women, women who had control of birthing, had control of reproduction, had knowledge, outside of what they were taught by men. Those papal bulls, I think, simultaneously created the world we live in today, where if you control Mother Earth and if you control women, you control survival. You control life. And the extreme necessity of understanding the wisdom that is here today is just finally, I think, the key to survival of life on the planet.